Yeah, no, usually when you wanted to put porn on your PSP, you had to go on your computer and then drag it over from a USB.
I mean,
So like
I had no choice with mine because mine couldn't connect to Wi-Fi. It was the shitty street model.
oh geez, the one that came out like way after.
Yeah.
The one that wasn't even the PSP Go, the one that was just like, oh, we give up just here.
The E1000.
Yeah, that one. So yeah, that's how I put my porn on. I had to use USB.
Anyway,
Jak II.
Hey everyone, back again with fuck's sake. We're back again with a Jak and Daxter podcast. I'm joined once again by Keith and Michael. How you guys doing?
I'm doing well. Wait a minute, I'm American. I should be saying howdy.
It's okay. It's the apocalypse. Who cares? No, there's no rules anymore.
So today, we're not going to be like trying to rip each other's heads off by debating anything. We're just going to have a simple discussion. So do you want to talk about what we're going to talk about, Michael?
Yes, I do believe if anyone who's been in the Jak and Daxter fandom for as long as we have, I'm pretty sure they've heard this topic brought up a fair few times. And because it's such a honestly dumb topic, I will say it in a over-the-top, complaining on the internet fanboy voice. Jak II is too different. It's not a platformer. It's a fucking GTA game.
That was fucking on point.
That's actually the exact voice I hear when I read something like that. That was spot on.
Oh man. Yes. So. You want to say something?
No, it was not important.
Okay. Well, let's just get into it then. So, like, what is one of the biggest things? So, like, it's not really a platformer anymore. It's a GTA clone.
It's main. The topic I keep seeing is because it's set in one big city and you take missions from people.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that, maybe they have a point, but then again, in what GTA game do you do a ton of jumping? There's still plenty of platforming. There's still plenty of jumping, swinging, and collecting in that game. I mean, precursor orbs, yeah, those are few and far between, and they're used for secrets, but they were replaced by skull gems, and you're still jumping around on shit. Like Grand Theft Auto, the only time I could ever imagine people jumping in those games is to throw themselves into traffic or off a cliff.
Or with like a mega jump cheat.
Oh, please. Everyone always does the flying car cheats.
Jetpack cheats. For me, oh shit, where's that frame of talk on? Yeah, it's obviously clearly they took some inspiration from GTA, but so did every single game that came out after GTA. So, I mean, yeah, you have the little mini map in the corner. You can steal cars. It takes place in the city. You go to each place mission to mission. Clearly, there's inspiration taken there, and clearly they did take a few things from GTA. But for me, like, if you look at Jak II compared to GTA Vice City, even any PS2 GTA game, there is such a stark difference in design and such a stark difference in actual quality of everything you do that, like, it's just no comparison. Like, Jak just beats GTA in every way on a gameplay level and even the story level.
Well, for me, I definitely see where the comparison comes from. I think the only caveat, though, is, like, Jak II's sandbox world is kind of empty. There's not much to do in it. But aside from that, I really do feel like Jak II is the superior game. Because like Michael said, there's still plenty of platforming and there's still plenty of collecting. And like the sandbox world isn't really integral to the gameplay. It's just kind of to bounce everything off of and to explore. Whereas GTA, the lifeblood of GTA is the sandbox world.
The sandbox in Jak II is a lot like some of the more isolated locations from the first game. It's all for atmosphere. Like wherever you are in Haven City, you know you're in Haven City, and you can feel where you're exploring. And even in some of the more outsidey areas, like the forest or the jungle, whatever that was called, and Dead Town, it still feels like a part of the city.
Yep. No, I agree. Yeah.
And one other thing I would sort of give them like anyone that thinks this, I would give them a little leeway because of the timing when it came to Jak II and GTA and like GTA 3 and all of its expansions. But there is one game in particular that I think kind of torpedoes this whole argument, at least when it comes to Jak II being such a jarring leap from the first game. And that is the one PSP game I wish I had played as a kid and wish I didn't judge too harshly for having a Matrix parody screenshot on the back, Daxter.
So what about it?
Daxter, like Keith knows this because I was constantly sending him pictures and messages about my first time playing the game. I played it for the first time last year, and my God, what was wrong with me back in high school? Why didn't I play this game?
Yeah.
But the game is like, to me at least, and I don't know if I'm alone on this, but it feels like the perfect blend between Precursor Legacy and 2. Like you've got the more sandboxy setup with taking missions and running around, admittedly a smaller section of the city, but like the first game, there's all these sub areas and isolated sections that you do a ton of platforming, and then Precursor orbs came back, and there's a shit ton of them, and the skull gems are now the primary collectible, like the power cells. Granted, they're not like over the top and like, oh, you got a skull gem, but they're what you need to progress. It feels like you're actually blending the two styles together, and since it takes place in that 2-year span, like in the opening cutscene of Jak II, that makes sense. It blends the two together, and I feel like with that type of game, like with that existing, anyone that says that the jump between the first game and 2 is too big of a leap and it's too different, I feel like that kind of defeats the argument just with that one game existing.
I mean, to be fair, Daxter came out a lot way after, but I do know what you mean.
I know, like retroactively at least.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that, like Daxter being a perfect mix. Because now that I'm thinking about it, like, yeah, you had Haven City, but like, it was fucking tiny, like what you could actually explore, which I think is like a good element to it because, you know, the focus is on going to the levels and exploring the actual levels. The sandbox hub area is just there to link everything together instead of having loading screens. Like, you know, just like the first game.
I think Daxter feels so much more like the first game than any of the sequels, which is just, but also feels like, it actually feels like a transitional game, which, like, I think they just got perfectly, like, the fact that it is between the two, and the fact that, like even the beginning, like, with Samos talking and all, like, they, even in Jak 3, they ditched that. But when Daxter, they brought it back, and in Daxter, like, it just feels like a transitional game, and it actually feels like it belongs where it's set.
I think gameplay-wise, it's a lot more similar to the first game, but tonally, I think it is a bit similar to Jak 2, or at least it's like it gradually gets to that point. It's it is like a linking game.
It is the game that blends the two styles, and honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that it doesn't show the full intro from Jak 2 where they got separated, and the fact that the ending, spoiler alert, the ending shows Metal Core turning into the old man, and then cuts to the ending of Jak 2, like, if they were to ever do like a huge compilation, like put Jak 1, 2, 3, Daxter, and Combat Racing all on one disc, I would like to see them blend 2 and Daxter, where it's like you've watched the opening movie, get to the part where they crash land in Haven City, then you follow Daxter, then you play through his game, you don't see Core transform, and then Like it just cuts to Daxter
saving Jack.
riding the elevator up, and then you play Jak II.
That would be actually really cool. I had this idea like for a Jak 4 game, like when I was a lot younger, and it actually started with like you play as Daxter for a couple hours because like something happens, and I've always wanted that sort of thing. Like for a couple hours you play as Daxter, and then you transition into Jak.
Yeah, with yeah.
Thanks for your input, man.
You're welcome, very welcome.
Great dialogue, beautifully written. I'm in tears.
we can tell you just woke up.
Yeah, no, sorry. What was I going to say? No, what's popped into my head now is the little scooter. I just wish you had that little scooter. Like, where do you never see a scooter like that again in a Jak game?
Yeah.
I always wondered what happened to it. But back to Jak II.
They're the plot holes we're worried about. What happened to Daxter?
What happened? No. The real plot hole we're worried about. Whatever happened to Captain Rupert Titjackmus on his vacation?
Did he ever come back? I wonder if you kill him in Jak II when like all the guards are like chasing you. Is he one of the yellow guards that you kill?
Jesus.
Mm-mm. Well, that depends. Does the whole game take place after his month vacation?
That's a good point.
What if he?
Maybe he's not even back yet.
Yeah. What if
Jak is terrorizing?
what if he never made it back? What if he like was killed on his vacation or something? Where could you take a vacation to, like in Haven City? You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
actually, considering the two, like you can connect the PSP to the PS2 and get some extra content in Jak X Combat Racing. Maybe he went
through a USB cable to Crass City.
Yeah, maybe he went Crass City. That's where his vacation was.
I've always imagined him being killed by a metalhead on his way back into Haven City because he comes back like just during that section.
Anyway, another big change between Jak 1 and 2 is the fact they ditched the collectathon aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you guys.
I think they...
Oh, yeah, go on.
No, I think they tried working in something like that, and I think they got it. They did it a little bit better, trying to at least call back to the collectathon aspect. I mean, yeah, the skull gems are obvious, but I think like for like the primary collectible, like instead like the replacement for power cells, it's like in Jak 3, actually, I would say it's they reference like primary collectibles with like the various pieces of armor, of the homing beacon, and the eco crystals. It's like, yeah, you get them for completing story objectives, but they're not necessarily pivotal to your progression. They just kind of mark where you are in the story, which is half of what primary collectibles do in a game like that. So I think it was kind of like harkening back to it. And in Jak 2 specifically, there was the flag you get in your first mission from Torn, and then the pieces to Mars Lighthouse. Like I think they tried, and again, the skull gems are replacement for orbs, but I can definitely say, I missed the collectible progression.
I think like the primary collectible, like the power cell, was replaced with a cutscene, basically. Yeah. So instead of seeing a little power cell cutscene, you got a good cutscene at the end.
I totally agree with that, actually, because yeah, in the first game there was obviously not many cutscenes. They were just there to kind of push it along. But I think like in 2 and 3, your reward is more story development.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I think Jak 1 pretty much perfected the collectathon formula. So I couldn't really see them taking another stab at collectathon in the Jak 2. So I'm glad they kind of, did away with it. But
do you think the games would have been as successful if they kept the collectathon style gameplay?
I really don't think they would have. Because like if you look at Jak's contemporaries being Ratchet and Sly, they both, like all three series had like their establishing game, but then the sequels all changed everything so drastically. So if Jak was to just stay the course, like most of the series would. I think it'd be left behind.
I kind of agree with that. I kind of agree with that. Like that, yeah, they definitely did change up the formula for the other PlayStation mascots. So Jak obviously had to do the same. In fact, maybe Jak was I don't know exactly the release timeline, but maybe Jak was the spearhead for all of that, for changing things up and making continuing game different from the last. But I would argue that if they did it well enough, and like you said, Naughty Dog basically nailed the collectathon platformer with the first game, that if they just kept going in that direction, but added the changes, but kept the structure, it could have still done better. Because I'm going to bring up other platformer series that have sold amazingly well, but I don't know how accurate a comparison it will be, so take it with a grain of salt. But when it comes to collectathons and open world ones at that, Super Mario Odyssey and A Hat in Time. Like, those games have sold phenomenally well. People love that style. And I'm pretty and a lot of people did complain that Jak II was so different. So if they had just done the first game structure with the style and some additions from what we actually got in Jak II, I don't think it would have been a failure.
I think the difference between that, though, with Hat in Time and with Mario Odyssey is, well, not Mario Odyssey, because everyone would buy a Mario game no matter what was on it. But with Hat in Time, it came out at a time when people missed platformers. Jak 2 was around at a time when people were just getting sick of them and were like, oh, it's like shooter fatigue in last gen. So I don't think, I still don't think that it would have, I think it would have just flopped on the market. I still think they would have done okay, but I not to the level that Jak 2 they considered a disappointment in sales, which I think is insane. But they're definitely in Japan anyway. But if they just would have stick the course and just made the cutesy collectathon still, that it just would have got lost in the shuffle, because Ratchet existed and it was doing something completely different, and Sly changed things up after the first game, as you said. So I think it just would have got lost in the shuffle.
Now that I'm thinking about it, because when they were starting development of Jak 2, they were going to do another Precursor Legacy style game, like tonally and gameplay wise. But then now that I'm thinking about it, if they did take a darker route, but they kept with the collectathon gameplay, I think that would have been actually really interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It wouldn't have as involved stories as what we got, but just platforming around in darker atmospheres and shit like that. I think that could have been really cool.
Well, I mean, we did get that, because the Haven Forest, plenty of platforming, plenty of really interesting areas, locations, and it was more atmospheric. It was darker. It was kind of like Precursor Jungle in the first game, but a lot more moody and because of the story setup and where this is, it was a lot more. It was a lot more dire. It's like, wow, this place is going to kill me if I'm not careful.
Yeah. I think the big difference there, though, is if you look at a lot of the levels in Jak 1, they're pretty open-ended, and you can do most of the objectives in any order you like. Whereas with Haven, the Mountain Temple, there's a few linear paths, but you get to choose which one. So I think that's the big difference there.
Right.
Yeah. And that's another thing that a lot of people do draw the comparisons to. Is oh, look, the first game. The first game was designed as an open-ended, open-world platformer where you can go where you want, when you want, at the specific points. And then in Jak 2, they just changed it to sandbox. You go to this point, then you do the mission, then you go back. But at the same... Yeah, go on, Michael.
I was going to say, you could still choose certain missions in certain orders, which actually doing one mission before another would make the other mission kind of easier. I think saving Ashlyn first and then getting
that made the race a lot easier.
getting her city pass, and then that made the race a lot easier in a later mission. So it is a little open-ended, but not as much as the first game because the objectives aren't object-based; they're completion-based. So,
I guess what I was trying to get to is the fact that they changed like the gameplay to guns as opposed to the eco powers, and the way I'm trying to be devil's advocate here and try and see where the I do see where the people that say, "Oh, it's just a GTA clone" are coming from, and that it changed too much because they entirely changed the whole gameplay design of the game. Like it's a completely different design philosophy as the first game was. Where go on, Michael. No, go on.
No, well, like I don't know about you guys, but I always remember like when when you were allowed to use yellow eco, I'm like, why can't I do this all the time? Like, because I also played 2D Mario a lot back in the day, so it's like fireball, like as long as I could keep it. But yellow eco was a temporary power, and with guns, like especially because the 4 guns use 4 eco types, so it's like it felt like a decent progression of the concept of the yellow eco attacks, though I do see where people can be a little put off from the fact that it is guns. But then again, I go back to my very second argument was that the fact that Daxter blended those two types of gameplay with like together so perfectly. Like you've got your collectathon platformer and sandbox mission structure. So I completely understand these arguments, and even though I don't agree with them, I get where people are coming from. But the fact that Daxter exists at all and should be ported to PS4, goddammit. But the fact that that game exists at all and it is such a good transitionary game in terms of gameplay, it retroactively kind of negates a lot of those arguments, in my opinion.
Really, the point I always bring up is if you play, say, GTA, well, it's a Vice City one that came out around Jak II's time. So if you play Vice City...
Pretty sure they drew inspiration from GTA 3.
Yeah, it would have been GTA 3 the inspiration came from, but I'm trying to do a fair comparison as like...
Yeah, I'm pretty
Jak
sure...
II was the progressive Jak 1.
Pretty sure Vice City
is the progressive GTA. So if you put those two games side by side, tell me which one looks funner to play and tell me which one just plays better. Like, that's the thing. Like,
yeah, I get that.
And then the checkpoint argument. GTA has no checkpoints.
I don't think that was their intention, though. So we know that like the tonal shift and the sandbox style was direct inspirations from GTA and everything. But as a kid, I always thought that introducing guns was inspired from Ratchet and Clank doing so well. What do you guys think? Because
as we've sort of known from... Go on.
To me, I think that's definitely the case with Jak 3 because like they added a heap, and Ratchet and Clank has always been like heralded as having like a massive variety of weapons. So I think like with Jak 3, they wanted to compete with that.
Side note for the whole Ratchet and Clank thing, because like Ratchet and Clank having a shit ton of guns. Would you ever want to see a Borderlands game with references to Ratchet and Clank? At least like have all the guns from those games as unlockable weapons in a Borderlands game, because those games pride themselves on a shit ton of guns. So
that'd be fucking sick.
What was I going to say again? Yeah, I think I agree with Jak 3 when they had like with Jak 3 and all the like different gun modifications for each type of gun, like just trying to max out the amount of guns you can have with the D-pad and still keep the game fluid. But With Jak II, I think it was just them trying to make it darker, just trying to like get rid of the eco powers to like friendly looking, just give him a gun, make him like look more edgy.
Okay, I disagree saying that the eco powers seem too friendly because I mean, like, think about it. Blue. Okay, you could argue blue, but blue was electric. It looked dangerous, and you ran around super fast. And if that was like your first exposure to video games, it's like, holy crap, how do I control this thing? I'm going so fast. And then red eco, you break shit super like red eco. You're punching boulders bigger than you are. I really don't think that that's meant to be cutesy. Yellow eco, fireballs. You are exploding little rat creatures in the swamp. And then dark eco, well, you've seen what dark eco can do. And those are the 4 eco types that are used in the guns for Jak 2 and 3. So I really don't think that the gun, like the whole concept of the gun transition may have been a bit jarring, but when you see the 4 different colors and realize what it's harkening back to, it's a little less confusing, and you can see where the connection is made. But I don't think that the guns were trying to move away from eco powers because they appeared too friendly. Because when you actually break it down and realize what you're doing with these abilities, it's like, no.
I think
I see where you're coming.
I think on the surface level, though, like guns are a lot more in your face than power ups.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that's kind of like I said, like I wanted yellow eco to be more like the fire flower in Mario. I wanted to use it more often, and that's what I got with the blaster.
I think I don't agree with this. I think the glow and the aura with the eco and stuff looks amazing, but I think what they were trying to do is the gun just looked cooler. So. Like,
I'm pretty sure they would have had the concept of using a gun way before, like, we can tie it into the universe by having them eco powered. Because they were trying to make it harder core, so of course they think of the gun first.
See, I don't really know, because like the Jak series, and especially in the first game, it was the combination of sci-fi and fantasy, because you have this mystical world and ancient legends, but it's all about weird technologies and robots, and you've got a flying motorcycle built by your kick-ass girlfriend. What exactly about that says friendly and magical? So I feel like going from that, like, and a few other crazy inventions to guns and the more technologically advanced city of Haven, it's like, yeah, it seems a little confusing at first, especially like going directly from like Precursor Legacy to 2. But if you look for it, I think it's there in the lore, and like, okay, I can see how this happened, especially when you find out you're transported to the future later.
Yeah, it makes complete sense, like lore-wise, because of course, like as the world progresses, they're going to figure out that like not everyone can channel eco like Jak does, so let's make them into guns so everyone can use it, and everyone can use the power of the ecos to kill people.
I think for people like us, all this stuff is very obvious, but like if you're just like an average consumer, you're gonna like pick up both games and be like, oh, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. But again, I feel like that issue was retroactively negated by the existence of Daxter, especially because Daxter started out with a melee attack and doesn't even get projectiles until later.
Yeah.
Much like Jak does.
I think the biggest problem with that, though, is Daxter hasn't left the PSP, whereas the rest of the games have been ported to newer and newer systems. So, like, unless you're, like, really into the series, you probably won't even touch Daxter.
God, I am so disappointed the fact that it's not on another... It's actually, when I started playing Daxter last year, and I was super addicted to it, and I couldn't stop, to the point that because my PSP was so old at the time, and I'll explain that in a different video, I had to use a clamp from my green screen to hold the disc tray closed to keep playing
that experience.
But like, I got so addicted, and I was playing that the whole time, and I ended up texting my brother, because granted, he's downsizing his collection recently, But I just told him, like, hey, I know your PC is powerful enough to run a PSP emulator. You should play Daxter, or hell, I'll just let you borrow mine because it's that freaking good. And his first question was, cool, isn't it available on PSN? I'm like, no, I wish it was.
Oh, man.
Playing it on Vita is like the ideal experience, though. So you can map the buttons to the right analog stick, and it just feels so, it's so good.
I haven't even bothered to try and put Daxter on my Vita, but I probably will at some point.
It's well worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, because when I got my PSP, like, the first game I actually bought was Daxter, and I played through it like 8 times. So I'm even now I'm kind of burnt out. Like I even played the shit out of the combat bug mini game.
Yeah, combat bugs. Yeah,
I used to play that a lot as well. I didn't have any friends or even a PSP that had Wi-Fi, so I couldn't play it online.
Oh, can I just say something real quick about the PSP's Wi-Fi thing? Did you ever see that news article, or at the very least, someone like Grade A Under A, who recently came back, hooray, covering the whole news coverage of the PSP and the guy that saved a bunch of porn onto the SD card?
I think I might have
Where
actually.
is it? I have seen this, but explain again, because it
wasn't this like years ago though.
This was so long ago that if you actually look up the news footage, it is staticky and weird to look at.
Yeah, I do remember this actually.
But like they were describing it as like inside is a high-speed computer with a Wi-Fi connection. Bitch, when I was in high school, I had my PSP on me practically every day. At least the days that I didn't have my 3DS when Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance came out and then Pokemon. But no, PSP was always on my person in high school. And I didn't have a smartphone at that time. So when I needed to look something up in English class, I'm like, hey, this has Wi-Fi connectivity. Can I use it to look this up? My teacher said, sure. That thing does not work. I tried opening a browser, and that shit does not work. I don't know what weird future tech those news media people were talking about with the PSP, but it certainly wasn't the PSP.
Dude, it's the mainstream media. They got to fucking monsterify something.
Yep.
Yeah, no, usually when you wanted to put porn on your PSP, you had to go on your computer and then drag it over from USB.
I mean, so, I had no choice with mine because mine couldn't connect to Wi-Fi. It was the shitty street model.
Oh, jeez. The one that came out like way after.
Yeah.
The one that wasn't even the PSP Go. The one that was just like, oh, we give up just here.
The E1000?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I put my porn on. I had to use USB.
Anyway.
Jak II.
Maybe this should just be the Shit Talk podcast with some elements of discussing Jak and Daxter.
Where was I going?
I mean, we were talking about
nowhere.
We're talking about the guns.
Oh yeah, the guns. If they were inspired by Ratchet or not, I think we touched that. So more about the guns is, do you think they added more to the gameplay, or do you think you would have preferred if they just evolved the eco powers more?
Well, I did like kind of a whole video on this when I was comparing Doom Eternal to Jak III. But what I said in that was, I think Jak II's addition of guns was a great addition, but it lacked depth. Like a little bit of depth was there, like in terms of like switching weapons and enemy types and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wish they did take it further in Jak III, but they just didn't. But I really did enjoy the guns in Jak II, and I do think they added a lot.
I feel like the guns didn't necessarily add a ton. Like, okay, I'd be lying if I said that they didn't add anything to the game, because obviously they did. Like, they themselves were additions. But I think that it was only scratching the surface. Like, the fact that you can incorporate melee attacks and those cool combination attacks from the first game, like uppercut, like the spin attack, with your guns, like punching with the blaster and then shooting, does the 3 shots in a row, spin shooting, and then like the uppercut was also incorporated into the Dark Eco powers. I think they were trying to make them more of an organic addition, but could have done 1 or 2 more things to really kind of mix the two.
Yeah, I agree with Michael. I think they were a brilliant addition, just gameplay wise, just as because I think, well, what I always see Jak II especially as is it flows so well with everything you do. Like you can get into any gameplay style you want in any position, pretty much. So if you're jumping and like spinning, then you can immediately go onto your jetboard and then immediately come off the jetboard and shoot, and then jump and spin, and then like everything just flows together so organically most of the time. That I think the addition of the guns really helped that. So like you can attack in any way you want, in any position you want, at any time, and like you're never restricted by an animation. Like I think that's what.
I'm sorry, I just realized another connection to freaking Daxter. I'm sorry, I keep bringing this up, but Daxter incorporated his projectile weapons into the movement system a lot more because you can use the spray gun to hover, and then the sonic grenades to get an extra boost. Like it was actually part of the platforming and not just a combat tool, which I'm not saying the regular Eco Blaster and just the regular morph gun didn't have connections to the movement system, but it didn't assist the movement system. It was assisted by the movement system.
Fair point.
I think the only thing the guns, in terms of integration, could have done better was like integrating with platforming.
Exactly.
But other than that, I really don't see how the addition of the guns is just scratching the surface, considering it integrates so fluently into the normal gameplay, and how each one of Jak's normal moves can be like integrated with some form of combat now.
True. But I say it's only scratching the surface because it is helped by Jak's movement system, but they don't help them. Like I mentioned, if it was more incorporated into helping the platforming while also being a part of combat, I think that the melding of the old with the new would have been more obvious, and it would have been easier for newcomers to understand, to get to grips with.
Yeah, I think that's really the only thing that could have like added as well to make it like a really full package. Also,
here's a challenge: try and find a way they would have been able to let you shoot on the jetboard.
I've put so much thought into this. Daxter shooting, just like when you're on the zoomers.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but considering that you don't have an extra, considering you don't have an extra section, like when you're in one of the bigger zoomers, Daxter doesn't have anything to rest the extra long barrel of the gun on. I think it would only have to be reduced to the shotgun when you're on the jetboard, since that's small enough that you can still hold it while on your shoulder without going off balance. But then again,
I also don't know if there'd be enough buttons for it.
That's what I was trying to get to, like controller wise. How would they have managed it?
Yeah, that's what I've always been thinking. Like, how would you do this? I don't think you'd be able to. I mean, I'm sure there's a way, but like, I don't think it'd be as fluent.
No, no, it wouldn't have worked, because even if they would have added it, it would have been that a random button that was out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and like it just wouldn't have
Speaking
mixed
of,
well.
Like, a lot of people say that, they've taken inspiration from Tony Hawk as well, because that was a big thing back in the day. What do you all think of the jetboard?
I love it. It's my favorite addition to Jak II.
I can see where they're coming from with the special challenges you can do in the arena specifically for the jetboard, especially because there was only the one jetboard. But gameplay-wise, getting around the city, the one thing that I am pissed off at is that sometimes people will jump out of the way. Other times you'll bump into them and immediately you have Crimson Guards after your ass.
Well, actually,
just
none of the guards get out of the way. It's only the guards that you bump into, because all the other civilians, they'll just jump out of the way.
No, I've bumped into civilians before, and then suddenly I've got Crimson Guards on my ass.
Are you sure you didn't jump on top of them? Because that can happen.
Possibly, I don't know. But no, it was definitely a ton of fun. Just getting to move around the city a lot faster and less dangerous than a zoomer. And considering it was created by Kira, who created the original model that created all these other zoomers, it makes perfect sense that she would keep developing these ideas and making new gadgets. So it feels perfect. It feels like it fits in the universe.
Yeah, I really fucking love the jet board. Especially when you figure out how to use it properly, like how to really get around.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I never knew how to side flip as a kid.
Yeah, no, I think it's incredible that such like how deep it actually is. Like on the surface, it's just like, oh, it's a thing I can get. It's cool, but when you want to really get into it, like it's so deep. Like the controls for it, it's just so good. It's incredible.
I mean,
I love it.
I do wish like they sacrificed a few of the cool looking moves for like more practical platforming purposes, because as like it never get like in the game that you actually play, it never gets further than like jumping and grinding, and that's about it. And like high jumping every
I
now
kind
and then.
I kind of wish that that it would have been incorporated into platforming similar to the roll, because like like with like Jak and Daxter and even Mario, it's like you have the roll to get further in your jump. So why not like when you have a grind, like when you grind super long on a rail or on a curb, if you jump at the very end of your grind, you get a ton of horizontal movement.
Yeah, I was literally just thinking like if there could be some sort of way to like add like a boost. It's add a boost to the move set. So like, say you could.
Didn't they do that in the third game? Like you can build up, but that goes vertical.
Yeah, vertically. I was just thinking because like you could do like a complex jump and then boost midair like forwards, and like I think that would add heaps more to the gameplay.
It's impractical, but I think you could actually use the jet board for every section where you need a roll jump, just as well. I mean, just do the 360, get your boost, and then do the jump somersault.
Yeah.
Oh god, that would be so cool.
It's a good challenge. I might give it a shot. But for every like
Jak II,
long jump,
Jak II only jet board game.
Yeah. Do it up in hero mode.
I gotta be honest, that I kind of wish there was a mode in Jak II where the entire city was like I guess evacuated. Like you can't see, like no one is there. No one is there. But then you could just get on the jet board and basically get like a grind combo, like just try and get as far as you can into the city without stopping.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of do want to bring it back to the topic of the city, but I do wish that Haven City itself had more to do in it. Like stuff like that would be great, like grind challenges through the city. But like, as it is, it's kind of barren.
Well, I mean, you've got all your mission locations. You've got all the optional challenges with the gun range and the arena, and then you've got all those tiny optional missions, which all you get are orbs, and those are only used to unlock secrets. So they really don't do a whole lot. And honestly, those are kind of a waste of skull gems, because you need the skull gems to unlock dark powers.
No, that's only in Jak III. You trade skull gems for the missions.
Oh, right. But I don't know. I feel like there is still stuff to do, but I get what you're talking about. I wish there was more. Like, I wish there was more of the core gameplay to do in the city.
Yeah, totally.
Rather than just all these optional stuff.
I think the reason for it is if you watched the PS5 thing recently, and they mentioned Jak II in it, they were so obsessed with getting. I was
so surprised when they showed that.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck are they doing?
I fucking fanboyed out of it. But no, I think they were so concerned with getting the game like so technically amazing with with as little pop in as possible.
Yeah.
Which is why they made you go down all the like windy roads and all, just to like make it look as seamless and nice with no loading screens and no pop in. that they were so concerned with that they forgot about actually adding things to the city.
Yeah, I think
Like,
I think that's the biggest crutch of Naughty Dog as a whole. They're worried about the games being technically incredible, and then they forget about the fun stuff.
Yeah.
I still think that the city did its job in terms of atmosphere and just the fact that you have Jack's movement system, and even though there isn't a whole lot of actual platforming you can do, just moving around with Jack is a lot of fun. So having this big open area that you can do that in between missions is still fun in its own way.
I just wish.
I agree.
I just wish there was more to do between missions, because as it is, you just kind of drive there. And that is another major complaint from most people from Jak 2 is just too much driving. And I really think if they did something to spice up the hub world in between missions, that I don't think that complaint would be as prevalent.
I can be quiet here and just say, "Oh, don't drive, walk then."
Actually, I already I kind of like make it fun for myself just to avoid unless I need to get there in a time limit, I avoid using zoomers because I just keep crashing into people and getting the guards on my ass. So I'll just be like roll jumping and grind railing and jumping off the board and back to rolling and basically doing all sorts of crazy parkour shit just to get to my mission objective and avoiding bumping into people. So,
I tend not to use a zoomer until I get to the crew mission where you have to deliver his package.
Yeah.
I
never use anything other than the zoomer. I can't handle the rest of the handling.
Yeah. I like the little mid ones. The kind of the greeny, like little kind of sports scary ones.
Those have always been my least favorite just because of how heavy they are.
Really?
Like they turn so slow.
I actually think those. I haven't really noticed the turning on those, but I feel like those are at least better from a visual perspective, because when the smaller ones like the first game's zoomer are super weak, but then you've got the ones with the second seat off to the side, and it just feels awkward controlling a vehicle in a game from the right or left side. So getting the green ones or the yellow ones, whatever color they are, where you sit in the middle is, I feel, the perfect compromise. But it is a little heavier, but honestly, I don't really see a huge difference in that way.
I mean, it kind of goes into there is choice when it comes down to what vehicles you pick, because each of the vehicles do have different properties. So like the zoomers, they're the best handling ones and they're the fastest, but they're the weakest, so they blow up super easy. And then you've got like the ones that look like cars, or like the one that's like two zoomers joined together sort of thing. They're sturdier, they're not as fast, but and they control okay. But then we've got those green and purple ones where they're bulky as fuck. They take a lot of damage, but they're kind of slow and bulky. So, I mean, I guess the thought was there to give a bit of choice when it comes to what vehicle to pick in the city. But unless it's like a specific mission that requires me to use one of them bigger cars to like pick up a lurker or a guy, or just need to be in a bulky vehicle, like when you're taking out the 5 Hellcats, I never really used anything other than the zoomer.
Well, like I said, I like to parkour and jetboard my way through the city and only use the zoomers when mission requires it.
Yeah. I know I've always liked the control of the zoomers. Call me crazy, but I've always liked the heaviness of them because they control like how I'd imagine them to control, like in real life, like just heavy, and like you have to like plan your turn beforehand. You have to turn before you're about to turn, or else like you're not going to turn when you're in the heavy ones. I know I've always liked it. I thought it was a nice little challenge. I don't know if that's what they were going for or not, but that's what I've always seen.
Yep. So I think the only thing left to really talk about is like the story and the tone of Jak 2.
I think it was the best thing they done for the series, changing the tone of the story and making it darker, because the first one, like I love the story of the first one, and it was great and all, but making it darker and changing the tone just changed the entire. Like it gave it its own. It turned it into its own, basically.
Yeah, I think there's two ways to look at it, because on the one hand we've got like the obvious comparisons between Jak 1 and Jak 2, but like everyone always says Jak 2 is a GTA clone, so then we've got to like compare story and tonality with GTA. So how do we look at that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't see that argument at all. Jak 2's story is in GTA 3, for example. What? Oh, bye, Michael. Oh, he's back! Hooray!
Yeah, you cut out there.
Oh, sorry. No, tonality-wise with the story, Jak 2 is more of a like. It's a fantasy story. Like it's not like once you get past the first torn mission, where I can see like if people go and they play the first torn mission, like, oh no, now there's this edgy guy that I have to do missions for. Oh, but once you get more into the story, it's not unlike like even tonality. It's not unlike a GTA game. It's a fantasy story. Like it's like
I really think
I feel like what made sorry.
With the whole GTA comparison, I really think it stops at the sandbox and guns, really, because nothing else about Jak 2 screams GTA to me. And the sandbox world in Jak 2 is kind of inconsequential compared to everything else in the game. So I think it's kind of like the smallest aspect of it as a whole.
Yeah. The sandbox is there for story purposes.
Yeah. So
like that's what it's there for, and it's there if you want it. You don't like necessarily have to use it. Not that there's much to do in it, but if it's there if you just want to fuck around.
Isn't that what you said you want your ideal game to do?
Exactly. There's stuff there if you want it. It's not necessary, but it's there if you want it.
Yeah.
Like and I love that about certain games.
Which, by the way, shit, I can't believe I've forgotten your name. Zeke?
Yeah, that's it.
Zeke. If you saw Keith's video, which was a response to my video, which I haven't, I think you should do a follow up.
Fear not, guys. I've already made the video. It's just unlisted at the moment. It only took me a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's okay. It's probably going to be like a year and a half since my last upload. So
fair enough.
But no, I actually think like describing your ideal game, like what mechanics and what genres you would want to see combined in what way. Because I just think that's a very fun topic.
Yeah. Admittedly, I didn't mean for this to happen, but I spent most of the video talking about game ideas that I've actually put a lot of thought into in the past. Because like when I was younger, I wanted to be a game developer. But I did spend a decent amount of time talking about my ideal game.
Cool.
Anyway, we can talk about that some other time.
All right.
Story.
Yeah.
Who was talking?
Well, you were, Keith, but I guess Mike can give his thoughts now. So, like, I was saying, what I was saying was like, when it comes to Jak 2's story, there's the obvious comparisons between the first and the second game, but then like people always bring in like, oh, it's just a GTA clone, and like they went dark and edgy because GTA is a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, see, the way I see it, it's like when they set up the precursor lore in the first game, and then you've got all these side characters that, like you've got the technology, like with the geologist and the Blue Eco Sage, and then you've got like the gambler and all these really cool, mysterious things around the world that are just kind of there. When you move on to the second game, it's like civilization has sprung up around it and is still incorporated. It's still there, and you can see where certain aspects of the first game are still around in the second one, like in the city. And even Dead Town, that's the whole point. It's Sandover Village. And then you still have all the precursor stuff linking it back to it. So I feel like saying that it's dark and edgy is really just kind of a crutch because of the change in atmosphere. But the tone and the lore and just the general feel of it still has roots in that bright, colorful world of the first game. And even then, the bright colors had some darker stuff to it. Like, you've got all the volcano areas, you've got Rock Village,
and Spider Cave.
Spider Cave. It's like, it was bright colors and it was a cartoony platformer, but it wasn't Mario, it wasn't Spyro, it wasn't freaking Super Lucky's Tale. It was its own thing, and you can see how that still connects in the second game.
Yeah. No, I agree completely.
So I'd like to ask you guys, what are some of your favorite things about the story in Jak 2, or just like Jak 2 and as a whole, and what it changed, and what are some of the things that you didn't like so much?
Okay. You can go first, Michael. I can think.
No, I talk way too much in these anyway.
It's okay. I need to think anyway, so you can go ahead.
I just like that. I like the fact that the game is so open-ended, but then has a linear path to follow, because I like exploring. I like just fucking around, but I don't like getting lost. And I feel like this game world is the perfect size for that. It's still a platformer. There's still tons of things to collect and just experiment with when it comes to jumping around and fighting dudes. And the story, granted, you still need the first game, but the story, I feel like, is so self-contained that I like Jak 3, I like combat racing, but you could have ended it at Jak 2.
Mm-hmm. I do agree there, but we'd still be whining for a third game like we are now for a fourth game.
Oh, yeah. For me, it would... I don't know. For me,
it's your favorite game, so make this count.
I know.
It's my favorite game.
There's just so much. I guess I'll start with the gameplay. Like, gameplay-wise, I don't think anything has ever come close to it. Well, Jak 3, obviously, but,
it came close.
But, I don't think anything's ever come close to, like, the pure freedom you have with the gameplay in that game. Like, there's just something about it, and how the fluid animations, and the fact that you never get stuck in an animation. You can transition from one gameplay style to another and never feel like it. You have to, like, it never feels stiff to me. I think all the changes they made were for the better. Story tone changes, the overall story, the world, the lore. Like, it is a like world building masterpiece. Like, in every way. Like, it builds Haven City and the world around it in, like, such a short amount of time, but you feel like it's a living, breathing place, and you feel like you've been there for years. The characters are, like, the amount of characters they put in, and the amount of characters that became beloved, and the amount of characters that stayed. Again, like, it just world building in general was just incredible, and it was such a crazy idea. Like, let's take this platformer and turn it into a dark, gritty, like, sandbox, but still keep its roots and still make it feel like a Jak game. It was insane, but they managed it, and I love every... I've left out a million things here, but I love every aspect of it.
Oh, yeah.
So, for me, gameplay-wise... I better say that Jak 1 is my favorite game of all time, but I love Jak 2. I think gameplay-wise, I love that they added the guns and that combat is now an actual element to the game, because in the first game, combat was... I mean, you had all these combat moves, but you never really used them effectively. I really love the addition of guns and how combat is a lot deeper. And I really love the jet board and everything, and just... like, the atmospheres of all the new levels and the new world it presents to us, I really love. Story-wise, so, like, if Jak 1 didn't exist, Jak 2 would obviously be my favorite game, probably just for the story alone.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jak 2 is the perfect story for this series. And I think it's obviously the best one the series did, because with the first game, the story was mostly just, like, it was mostly for context, like most other games of the time. But what I do love,
Yeah.
no, something fell. What I do love about the first game is how it sets up the intrigue of the world and how it establishes the precursors in a way that's like, it's an element to the game, but only like, it's not very in your face about it. Like the story is there, it starts and it finishes, but the precursors are like they're like an underlying factor behind everything. That's what I love so much about that one. With Jak II, I was a little disappointed that there wasn't as much precursor mystery in it. But what I do love about Jak II is they introduced the mystery of Ma and his role in everything.
Well, you still also get some like a lot of the precursor stuff in the first two games is and for a lot of the third game is relegated to the background because you just see all these structures and ancient technology that's somehow more advanced than what they have got right now.
Yeah.
So it's like you still get a lot of that in Jak 2 and Jak 3, but it isn't a main focus. It's something for you to just look at, ponder, and adds to the atmosphere of the world.
Yeah, that's my point though. But I do feel like with the first game it was a little bit more prevalent than in Jak 2. And I wish it was more prevalent in Jak 2 because the only real places you go that are precursor oriented have their roots in Ma, which is kind of a letdown for me.
Yeah, I never actually thought of it like that.
I think that and the fact that this is prevalent in Jak 3 as well, but like Jak 2 and 3, they take their stories a lot more seriously and there's a lot more character interaction. But it's noticeable like how little Jak and Daxter interact with each other. I think
they still cut like Daxter still quips and Jak physically reacts, which because he never talked in the first game, that interaction makes more sense even now that Jak has a voice. But I think it's more like they sort of already know how the other is feeling or how to react to the other because they've been friends for so long. It's not like they don't have to they don't have to interact a ton like it's a goddamn sitcom.
Yeah, I know.
Their friendship feels more organic that way.
Mm-hmm. I know, but I just do wish like they had more conversations that weren't like 2 sentences long. You know what I mean? I can't really think of many.
We need to move back to the country.
I think they've done much better with that in Jak 3, the interaction between Jak and Daxter. In Jak 2, though, I guess I can see your point, but I think I disagree because I don't know. I much prefer the relationship in Jak 2 than in Jak 1.
I mean, again, like this stuff is they're tiny nitpicks. Like otherwise fantastic.
Although something to do with Jak 3. God, I miss pants.
No, dude, that was Jak 2.
It was both.
Yeah.
Oh no, in Jak 3 he also goes deeper into it.
Yeah, I know.
Soft, warm underpants.
You know how it lifts and cradles? Anyway, I think the story totally was done for the better for Jak 2.
Mm-hmm.
And gameplay wise, it's hard for me because like the reason I love the first game so much is like I feel it's much more immersive and I feel a lot more connected with Jak in the first game compared to the sequel. But I think that's just me.
Okay. That's interesting. I think I'm the opposite. I think in Jak 2, I just feel much more... I think it's the lack of a voice in Jak 1, because I know they've done that so you could feel like you're the character. But for me, that never really works. In Jak 2, I kind of like want a character that I'm playing as, as opposed to like trying to roleplay.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I've mentioned this before, but I can't really bring myself to separate any of the games in the Jak series because I just love this franchise. I love the lore. I love this universe. Even though I can definitively say if I was stuck with one video game to play for the rest of my life, it would be Jak 2. But I feel like saying that I prefer one over the other is the word I'm looking for disingenuous? But I guess it is. but like it just doesn't feel quite right to me personally.
I mean, when it comes when it comes down to it, I think like when choosing a favorite, especially out of the first two, it comes down to tiny things. Like there isn't like one element to it. It's like, oh, this game is better for this reason, but it's like most of it's personal stuff and most of it's tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Jak 3, I can definitively say it's not my favorite.
Okay. Yeah, for the first three games, I'm similar to Michael. I'm like, they're all Jak games. They're all amazing. I love them all. But if I was like to pull one out from like a plane crash, it would be Jak 2. If I had the choice of one to pull out.
You're in a plane crash and there's people dying and you choose to save a disc that you can buy for $10.
Yep. Why not?
I mean,
people are terrible.
I mean, if
your house was on fire and you can only save one part of your collection, what would it be?
My Jak.
If my house was on fire and I could only save one thing, including my family.
My Jak 2 skateboard.
Yeah.
Oh god,
it's worth more than I am.
That thing must be worth a pretty penny.
Oh, dude, I paid like $800 for it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know how true this is, but I think there's only like 50 made. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's Australian dollars, right? 800
AU. Yep.
Okay, so that's about. Let me do now. Quick Google here.
Well, like what? A standard retail game in Australia is $100.
Still, that's still like $523 US. Oof.
Yeah. A retail game is about $100.
Yeah.
Good thing I don't play anything new.
100. Yeah, it's about the same. 65 quid. Sorry, I'm just googling shit here.
Yeah. The only way you could get the skateboard, it was won in a competition in a PlayStation UK magazine. Or so I've heard. I'm not 100% sure of the details. But yeah, they're fucking rare as hell.
Where did you find that? eBay?
So someone put a post on the Jak and Daxter subreddit because they had one still sealed and they were asking how much they could get for it. And I messaged the dude and I was unsuccessful with getting one because he said it, they're easily worth $1,000. And I'm like, yeah, totally. And he said he might hold on to it for a bit longer. But someone else in the thread said they had one. So I messaged him and he was from Norway, I think. And yeah, we ended up, it took like maybe 5 months to actually get it shipped out to me because I was paying it off.
Yeah.
And like, the collector's editions were coming out that time as well. So, my fucking wallet was killing me. But
Jesus.
Yeah, eventually he ended up getting around to sending it and it just sits under my bed because I've got nowhere to put it.
Damn.
You can't even like nail some hooks up to the wall and hang it on.
You have no idea how small my room is.
It's probably bigger than my room.
I don't know. Well, before I packed up my drum kit that was in there, I could only take 3 steps, and that was from the door to my bed. Anyway,
I have to take a step. I take a step and a half from the door to my bed.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to be moving into my own place with my girlfriend at some point soon, so I'll be able to.
Nice.
I'm going to be buying like a big glass cabinet to put all my stuff in, all my Jak stuff, and I really cannot.
Nice. Congrats, man.
Anyway,
yeah.
I think we've exhausted the Jak 2 topic. We're just talking about Jak 2 skateboards now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Got you.
Sorry?
No, I was about to make a jetboard joke, but I forget what it was now, so continue.
Dude, if there's one thing I want more than anything in life, it's a fucking jetboard.
Oh my god.
Like, even if
an actual functional jetboard?
Even if it didn't work, that'd be the coolest fucking thing ever.
Yeah.
Just to have one that folds up like Jak's. That would be fucking sick.
Did you guys ever see that? It's obviously fake, but that like animatronic PlayStation 5 controller that opens up, has some touchscreens.
That was really cool.
I haven't seen that. Well, I'm completely out of loop with everything. So what's this?
Give me a sec. Let me. It's on. I found it on Instagram.
It was a fan made thing. Before you find it, we should probably end this Jak and Daxter podcast.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
thanks for watching, everyone. We're going to keep talking after this, and if you want to hear whatever random shit we have to talk about, go to Keith's channel. Link will be down below. All right, well,
It's gonna be my first video in like a year.
all right, well, thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.
Bye.